yesterday. Do you want me to tell you when I'm doing something that could affect you? Or do you want me to say
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please note those in attendance? Will you please stand as the honor guard presents the colors?
City of White Bear Lake, the flag of your nation, and a pledge to follow.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. All right, item 2A, approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting on April 8th, 2025. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
A motion, a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. Item 4, consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion, a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. All right. All right. Item 5A, Law Enforcement Memorial Proclamation. I have the great privilege and honor of reading a proclamation for Law Enforcement Memorial Week. So without further ado, whereas there are approximately 8,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities around the United States, including the dedicated members of the White Bear Lake Police Department. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, there are currently more than 24,000 law enforcement officers in the United States that have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas 345 names of fallen heroes were added to the National Law Enforcement Memorial this year, including 148 officers killed in 2024 and 197 officers who died in the previous year. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 37th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2025. Whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of National Police Week, which will be observed this year from Sunday, May 11th to Saturday, May 17th. And whereas May 15 is designated as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the fallen officers and their families. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of White Bear Lake shall observe May 11th through the 17th, 2025, as Police Week in the City of White Bear Lake, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation. And since we have so many law enforcement officers in attendance, I think it's fitting that we stand and give them a round of applause for all their hard work for the city. All right, we have another special treat tonight. Item 5B, swearing in of a new police officer. Chief, are you taking this? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of the council. First of all, thank you so much for that proclamation. I know it means a lot to our officers. It means a lot that we're supported by our city and elected officials, so thank you. We're back again tonight with another opportunity to celebrate and share one of our newest police officers, Jordan Sullivan, with you, and to celebrate with her family and friends who are here in abundance tonight. I'm also very proud again of our honor guard who did a great job again tonight. I think Captain Toom was doing a great job organizing and arranging for that to happen. I think tonight Sergeant Gadboy, Officers Yabi and Fink all did a fantastic job. All, by the way, military guys themselves, so I think they did a fantastic job. So thank you. Also want to thank fire department personnel in the room. Many of our law enforcement brothers and sisters are in the room as well. On my way over here, I know that our cops just got swamped with calls, so that's what's holding the rest of them out. So Jordan comes to us as an experienced officer, spending time at Cass County Sheriff's Office, the Walker Police Department, and Lakeshore Police Department, all in northern Minnesota. Jordan was born and raised in a Brainerd area where she lived with her mother and father, as well as her sister, Cameron. She speaks fondly of her upbringing, especially about her love of the outdoors and about the amount of time that she and her father spent fishing and hunting, even traveling to Colorado to do some elk hunting. Might be a little embarrassing here. So attending high school in Brainerd, Jordan had a passion for softball. She finished her 2019 senior year season as the captain of the title-winning team with a .367 on-base percentage and hitting .340. I hope those numbers are right. All right. After graduating with some encouragement from her father, Jordan decided to pursue a career in law enforcement. She attended Central Lakes College, where she earned her Associate of Arts degree in law enforcement, followed by completing skills program and passing the post tests. As I already talked about, Jordan spent her first couple of years working first as a part-time officer and then a full-time officer in northern Minnesota. One of her duties she talked about enjoying the most was when she was able to build relationships with the community she served by demonstrating a positive police presence. While she enjoyed her time with her most recent department, Cass County Sheriff's Office, she had a desire to move closer to the metro area and begin looking for departments which would suit her skill set. Knowing the priorities of the White Bear Lake Police Department, learned from her very own Eddie Yabi, she believed her qualities and assets would fit perfectly here, so she applied and was hired this past January. Due to her abilities and her experience, her professionalism and her passion for the job, she made very quick work of FTO. She finished late last month, far ahead of schedule, but anticipated by all who know her and interviewed her and whoever worked with her. While her FTO experience here was relatively brief, she was still part of a really interesting call, which earned her a unit award for the way she handled a significant narcotics and gun-related incident. One thing I've noticed about Jordan is that she takes her job very seriously. Additionally, she keeps to herself, or at least she knew enough to keep to herself on FTO. Not everybody does that. It's clear that Jordan will be a leader in law enforcement, either formally or informally, given her abilities and her personality. I, for one, look forward to watching her career progress. Tonight, as I said earlier, many of Jordan's friends and family are here, to include her boyfriend Sam, her mother Jamie, her father Eric, who will be pinning on her badge in a few moments, her grandmother Sherry, as well as several others in the room. So with that, Jordan, if you'd step up front so the city clerk can issue your oath of office, after which you'll get your badge pinned.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Jordan Sullivan,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and will discharge
and will discharge
and faithfully execute
the
duties devolving upon me
duties devolving upon me
as a police officer for the city of White Bear Lake
as a police officer for the city of White Bear Lake,
without fear or favor,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to pin me first?
Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I think the group that's with Jordan will probably head over to the police department and enjoy some refreshments over there, so we can just have a minute or two for them to leave. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
We got it.
All right. Item 5C, the Police Department Biannual Report. Chief, whenever you're ready.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The last time I did this was in October, and we had the same department photo. Tonight, I'll give you just a brief rundown of the entire year of 2024. I figure it's a fitting time to just tell you what the last year was like as opposed to just the last 6 months. So that, again, is a photo pretty much the same. I'll speak a little bit later of our gains and losses out of that photo. This is our organizational chart. It hasn't changed much with the exception of last fall. As the council knows, we added an SRO on the bottom left there to add to our 2 that we had already to make it a 3 SROs. Department overview, again, we have Chief of Police, served by 2 captains, Captain Henry and Captain Tuma, 4 sergeants. Currently, we have 17 patrol officers. We have 2 investigators. I'll speak to our shortages here just in a little bit. Right now, we have 3 administrative staff. We're hiring 1 additional due to a departure we had recently, and we have 28 sworn officers currently, and we're authorized for 32. Again, our shifts haven't really changed due to a little bit of staffing shortage. We don't have 2 of our patrol officers, which were power shift, and they kind of covered both shifts, night and day. We don't have those. That's kind of a luxury to have those 2 people in position. We just don't have those yet because we're short. Otherwise, primarily the officers and sergeants work 11.5 to 12-hour shifts, and they're either on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then every other Saturday. Our investigator staffing, we have Detective Paipu Vong and Detective Blevins there on the top, and we have 3 SROs currently working, 2 at the North Campus or the high school, and 1 south at what used to be the South Campus. Our VSET investigator is currently vacant. As I said, we lost 1 of our administrative staff. We have 3 with Megan, Cindy, and Angie. You see the variety of functions that they perform for our police department. They kind of are the the heart and soul of our department, kind of getting everything done kind of behind the scenes. And they're also the face of the department as citizens come to the window or call our department. Some of the personnel changes we had over this last year, we lost Tracy Menarchek, as you know, retired in January of this year. Another officer, Antonio Brown, had a medical situation a year and a half ago, and eventually he was forced to exit the career. We also had some departures of 2 officers who transferred to different departments, and then 1 officer resigned during FTO. But our new hires are, as we already found out, is Jordan Sullivan there on the bottom right, and Jordan started with JJ Vang right there in the middle on the top, and we swore in Zach Hengen a few months ago, and then 2 CSOs with Reed and Jaden. Those are the people we've added in the last 6 months. These are, besides our patrol activities and crime fighting and, community engagement and all the functions that we are kind of public facing, we have a pile of duties that need to be done by our officers in addition to their regular duties as a patrol officer or sergeant or captain. And these are a few of them. I have 2 pages of these just so you can see some of the things that we require from our officers. We ask everybody that comes in the door to make sure they have 1 or 2 side hustles, if you will, in our department to make sure that they are doing other things to help move the ball up the field and help make our department better. So a lot of them are trainers, or they serve with a volunteer group, or drone pilots, wards committee members, things like that. There's the second page of that. Again, a lot of trainers. Child safety seat program. We need people that are certified to put in child safety seats. And we lost ours with one of our administrative professionals who left. And so we're in the process of filling that, as many members of the public rely on us often to check their child safety seat out. And we want to make sure that those folks don't fall through the cracks. So you see there's a lot of functions that we require our officers to do. We do a lot of training. We have 12 training days per year, and each training day is a 4-hour training. Oftentimes we do them on Wednesday afternoons, and those are our in-service trainings. We also have 12 roll call trainings per year, meaning during that month we cover 1 topic of training and make sure that all the officers are covered that month. We started with JJ and Jordan. We started an FTO academy. The trend in law enforcement is not just to get your people in to start them on the street, but it's to have a little miniature academy of your own to kind of show people more than just what they learned in the state academy. We wanted to teach them how we do it here in White Bear Lake. And this was the first time we did that, and it couldn't have worked out better. They do a lot of scenario training, a lot of traffic stop building searches, a lot of things that they don't get an opportunity to once they leave the academy. And we train these guys in that. And JJ, our other officer, who I hope to swear in real soon, his day 1, somewhere around the morning of his day 1, he gets involved in a very serious incident that he had already done the week before about 15 times in training. And it was just incredibly valuable that we take these officers on for 2 weeks before they actually start their shifts. Worked out really well. We're starting a peer support team, headed up by a couple of our officers and our internal training consultant, mental health consultants. We also sign into the League of Minnesota Cities patrol trainings, which we have to do dozens of trainings every year to just keep up our certification. Of course, Kyle there on the top left, he attended DARE school this year. A few of our officers went to the Executive Training Institute, which is the Chiefs Conference a couple weeks ago down in Rochester. And then SWAT and Mobile Field Force, of course, keep us busy with trainings, or a few of our officers busy with trainings. One of the things that we talked about in meetings in the past is not only trying to recruit and retain officers in the present, but also preparing for the future, kind of playing the long game, if you will. We really bolstered our internship program. In 2024, we took on 2 interns. A couple of those young faces there are interns we had last year. In 2025, so far we have 1, but we're going to end up with 5 or 6 throughout 2025. And I really feel like 3 of those faces are our interns so far, and that's really playing the long game. We want to get them in our doors to see who we are. They're students who are probably in their last year of law enforcement training. Most of them happen to come from Hamlin, as we have a connection to Hamlin University, and we're hoping that one of them is finishing this summer and that he'll be looking for a job this summer, and I'm hoping to keep them. So we have to play kind of a short game by getting people in the door right now. As you know, we've had many challenges trying to do that, but we're also trying to build for the future. And then one of the, Connor Severson there in the red, he is our student who is a CSO, and he's a grant recipient that we have through the Department of Public Safety, where we can pay for his schooling, and then we get reimbursed for his salary, or half his salary and half his schooling. So it's a really good program. Besides all the construction we did in 2024, which I know that you've seen a lot of, we renovated our evidence room downstairs. That was some of the money we received from that that grant received in 2024. We're just about completed with that. While we were going to do that, as you know, we had water damage down there, so it just extended the job by about 9 months, just getting all that taken care of. But we're about the 10-yard line here. We're almost completed with that, but that's taken up a lot of our time and energy. We have partners, as we have in the past. The only one that's really kind of been bolstered maybe with our relationship is the Northeast Youth and Family Services. We've always used them for our juvenile issues, as well as being an advocate in our community for a few of our kind of regulars. But this last year, we picked them up to handle all of our domestic violence and our sexual assault cases as well, to be advocates for victims on that. And it has worked out absolutely swimmingly. I couldn't be happier with how that's turned out. I know that I'm going to say they've used us, but they've used us a little bit as a pilot program because they wanted to see how well it works with us, and it's worked so well. I think they have other departments kind of knocking at their door trying to get the same service. So, and then of course we partner with all these other agencies for both training, advice. We opened up our Lexipol policies this year. Lexipol is kind of the standard for law enforcement around the country, and they create policies for thousands of law enforcement agencies around the country, and we changed those guys this year. Minnesota Post Board, of course, they oversee all of our training and licensing. Our volunteer program is something I'm really proud of. We have the Triad folks who are kind of some of our seasoned citizens. We have the White Bear Lake Police Reserves. We have the Citizen Police Academy, and then we have our CERT program down on the left. And I know many people will recognize those yellow shirts from Market Fest and parades and a variety of different events around the city. They are by far our most valuable volunteers that we have in the city. They perform so many functions for us, and over the last few years, they've put in hours and hours of thousands of hours of free labor for us, and we're really proud of the work that they do. I really am into community engagement. I think that the council knows that. That's one of the things I hang my hat on. Just some comparisons to 2023. I did a lot of comparisons these last few slides with our traffic and our crime, as well as our community engagement efforts. We've always been a community engagement city. We've always worked well with all of our partners around the city and in our area, either Gem Lake or White Bear Lake. And this year's no different. My goal was to double the amount of events we had in 23, and we did. We're far more than 75. We're more like about 125, but that's if you count each individual incident of DARE class and each individual incident of Market Fest, and I decided I didn't want to brag too much. So we doubled our efforts from 2023, and I'm very, very proud of that. I've told you before, We have a community engagement team, a group of about 5 or 6 officers and sergeants and captains who voluntarily want to be part of that team. That's kind of their vibe, if you will, using a word that was last a couple of weeks ago. That's something they really enjoy about policing, and so they are primarily the ones that show up to these events, although we expect all of our officers to be available and to attend events when they're on duty. Then just some comparisons to last year when not quite yet, sorry. Last year was our first awards presentation that we had. At the beginning of 2024, we started an awards committee. These are the 5 awards that we give out, and the people on the bottom right there, that's the group of folks that received awards last year. You see that we gave out a Citizens Award last year on the top left to a couple of our CERT members who found a very valuable piece of evidence shortly after a pursuit. And then Pondvlai Sorensen in the middle there, she received 2 life-saving awards in 2024. She made a drastic difference in 2 people's lives in 2024. Wayne Gillen on the bottom had a life-saving award too. So very proud of that program. Most of those awards are nominated. The officers and citizens that are nominated by their peers and not nominated by their supervisors, which is really encouraging that we're noticing each other for the quality work that we do. And then lastly, I just wanted to show a difference between 23 and 24 numbers. As it relates to our proactive activity and our call load, you see at the very top the number of case numbers we have. Now that's everything from calls to traffic stops to anything that our officers do and pull a number for. We had 11% increase from 23 to 24. Arrests, we had a 40% increase from 23 to 24. And traffic stops, a 30% increase. Now those 2 numbers, it's probably... Maybe it's you could assume that there's more crime in White Bear Lake due to those numbers. If you look at DWIs, we only had 6 more DWIs, and we had a massive decrease, 27% decrease in assaults and domestic assaults. I think it's a new strategy that our officers are employing, our shifts are employing to just simply be more proactive, and we're trying to loosen up some of our officers' administrative duties so they can get out and be more active on the street, which is the result is the 40% increase in arrests and 30% increase in traffic stops. And then one more list is accidents. I don't have an explanation for why we had an almost 20% increase in accidents. It doesn't really stand to reason if we have a 30% increase in traffic stops, but yet a 20% increase in accidents. I don't know how to explain that. Decrease in animal complaints. We had a decrease in burglaries, a decrease in frauds, and just a minor increase in thefts. So those are the numbers that we have, the pertinent numbers that I thought the council would like to see. Other than that, I'm open to any questions, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Couple comments, 1 or 2 questions. So I just want to clarify. So the slight increase in DWI, slight increase in arrests, that's not indicative of, as you said, of more crime. It's just maybe better policing, more proactive, and we're catching more of the criminals out there.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that's true.
Very good. So first off, the community engagement, I think, is great. So hats off to you. Well done. I think, there's the assumption that interactions with police are usually under negative circumstances. The more we can be proactive about people having good, encouraging, positive interactions with the police, I think is great. So good job with that. You mentioned a little bit about more internships and that being a recruiting mechanism and a feeder. We've discussed at length at the council and in work sessions. It's tough out there to recruit and hire police officers, but the last couple rounds it seems like we're getting a few more applicants. How would you characterize it? Is it getting better? Is it the same? Marginally better? Marginally worse?
I think that you put it correctly with marginally better. I'm certainly hopeful. As the council knows, I have a relationship with Century College here, close to our city, and our classes for law enforcement have never been larger than they are right now. So I think the pendulum is starting to swing. I don't think it's reached the user end, I guess, yet. We're still in the kind of the education end. I don't know what'll happen in a couple years from now with those numbers. A year ago, departments were needing, there was 300 departments needing officers around the state. As of this afternoon, 150 were. So things seem to be looking up a little bit. The average 6 years ago was that there were 7 departments looking for officers. So we're not out of the woods, but I believe that things are looking better. They're certainly, on paper, they seem to be looking better. We had more applicants this last process that we just ran. We had more applicants then than we had in 3 or 4 years, so that's good. Not nearly what we were getting, but I think that things are getting better.
Good. Well, that's encouraging. Thank you again for the report. Council, any questions for the chief? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, the number that, so thank you for all the numbers and the comparisons. It's useful, appreciate it. The number in your report that caught my ears were budgeted, allocated for 32 sworn officers, and we've had 28 currently on the street able to fulfill their work. That gap has not decreased much in several months. That's my perception, just listening when we hear from HR and from the city manager about hiring process. We've had a persistent gap and have been under deployed. Can you just, when a citizen asks me, so what is going on with our police department? How do we manage? What's the impact of those vacancies? How would you want a council member to respond to that kind of a conversation?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for that question. So we have to play a little bit of a shell game with our officers, and when we're short, first of all, to set the stage a little bit, in October when I was giving this presentation, I was bragging to you all that we are FTOing we have a backgrounding our 32nd and final officer, and I felt like a hero, because we had made it back. By January, so 3 months later, we were down 7. So in 3 months' time, we had retirements, resignations, 2 people went to different departments, injuries. It just like that it went. We were doing great for 2 years, and then that happened, and now we're crawling back into it again. I think that the reality in law enforcement is that the market is just so rich for employees now. They can go anywhere they want, and they'll do better financially. It used to be that you can't change departments, you won't do better, you have to start over, that kind of thing. The market's just changed now. It's really conducive to people changing departments. So that's one of our issues. But to answer your question, we play a little bit of a shell game with our officers in that I believe our bread and butter is our patrol officers. They're the ones that are going to make the difference on the street. They're the ones that are the most visible. But by kind of front-ending that by putting a lot of officers on patrol and not making them sacrifice, then we're hurting in investigations, we're hurting in these specialty positions, and we're not able to do the things that are needed as well. Following up on cases, people not getting appropriate follow-up on their case for a couple months because we're so short investigations. So I would say that citizens aren't going to see a change in police response to their house and police response to active crimes. They might see a difference with other duties that we ask them to do, like follow-ups and investigations and things like that. But as I said, we're just kind of having to play a little game by moving people around and making sure that people are in the right place to make sure that when you pick up the phone that somebody's there.
Can you say something about the professional and personal toll that being understaffed puts on the employees in your department?
Yeah, Councilmember Edberg, I think it does. I think it manifested itself recently with the departure of 2 officers to another department or 2 different departments. I think that in part their departure was just due to kind of being short-staffed and and just the kind of the general vibe around law enforcement. I think that it's taken its toll over the last 5 years, with several people leaving. You know, from 2020 to 2023, we probably had 10 or more kind of departures. We had a lot of changeover during that time. In August of 23 is when I was fortunate enough to be selected, and then I got a little too big for my britches to think that we're not losing anybody again. And then October, November, December of last year gave me a little wake-up call to know that the numbers are just, personnel is just kind of fickle with the way they move around in this profession, especially now. So yeah, I think it takes its toll. I think it's also given an opportunity for some of our younger folks to gain some seniority and get into some positions that they want to. We have kind of two sets of officers right now. We have our 12-year and more veterans, and then we have very little in the middle, and then we have our 4-year and under folks. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Some of our older veterans maybe don't have a desire for advancement to go into leadership roles, and I know we have a lot of young, hungry officers who do have a desire. So maybe in a couple of years from now, or a few years from now, we're going to have a really different kind of department, maybe a different leadership group, different philosophy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those younger officers progress.
I'd like to add to Chief Hager's comments, if I may, Councilmember Edberg. You know, some of the things I'm told is that the toll is we have to keep the streets covered, right? So that means overtime shifts. That means a little bit more time away from family. It means a lot of those things, and we try really hard to hire as often as we can to get these full. We are down 4. We have one on light, or a couple on light duty. So I think it's used interchangeably when we say we're down. It doesn't always mean they're vacant. It means some are on light duty, meaning that they're doing office work because of a medical condition or something like that. But it's kind of used interchangeably from time to time. So while we are short, we have 4 vacancies. We're technically down 6, if you will, but I want to caveat that those 2 officers are absolutely making a difference in investigations, and we're thankful for that. But there's a lot of overtime that is being worked, but I can assure you as a council member and the community that's watching or listening or inquiring, we don't settle on our vacancies. I would rather keep a vacancy than to settle for someone just to say a seat is full, a squad is filled. And I'm proud of that, and I think our officers wouldn't accept anything less than that. But it for sure has a toll on them, I think.
So my final comment and question. I think about, yes, we hire overtime. There's only so much of that you can do. It takes personal tolls. It's the days and nights away from family, missing holidays, missing special occasions. There is a human toll that we exact, and it's something that we don't have great control over. We can't hire in. This isn't a kind of job where you can call up a temp agency and hire somebody to ride around and enforce our laws. That's just not the way we can do it. And so that's a lot of this other, we do without and do as best we can, but there's a human toll. I'm not perceiving that we are having a public toll at the moment, but I think about that and I worry about that. And I don't have a good answer. I'd welcome, as we try and get back on top of that, Chief, if you can get back in the right size britches again, and I think we'll all be happy with that. But
Councilman Edberg, I appreciate those sentiments too. I agree it's not sustainable to continue to fill every shift with one overtime officer. It's probably, if I'm being honest, it's just starting to take its toll a little bit in that, 2 weeks ago, I'm working on a Saturday night to fill a shift, and last Saturday, Captain Tuma's filling a shift on overtime, or filling a shift as a salaried officer. And so we're starting to see that, it's maybe starting to take its toll a little bit. Having said that, it was around the holidays and there was a lot of people, with their personal lives. And we encourage people to make sure that they sign up for overtime when they want it. As any agency or any workplace has, you have your people who really, are here because they want to make a few extra bucks. And we encourage that as long as they don't get too burnt out. We have a lot of people who are really happy right now because of all the overtime. We don't force people into overtime. If it gets to forcing people overtime, then the chief, to their dismay, I suspect the chief is, driving around in a squad car and probably totally useless. But I used to be a cop once, and I used to be able to know how to do stuff, and so I'll go fill a shift and try to help them out. So will Captain Tuma. So. We know it's not sustainable, and we have to just keep playing with the numbers and the positions to move them around to just maintain that bread and butter patrol that we have to have.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions for the chief? Councilmember West.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chief, for all the information that you provided. I am particularly interested in the Northeast Youth and Family Services that you were talking about, and really happy to hear that it couldn't go any better in your estimation. I know that there was sort of questions because we were going from one kind of provider to like specifically only Northeast Youth and Family Services. And I also noticed that the assaults and domestic assaults were decreased by 27%. So I guess I'm curious, well, first of all, if there's anything else that you want to say about Northeast Youth and Family Services and that partnership, and also if you think that some of the services that they are providing, because I know that they do provide like more long-term services when people are asking for them, if you think that there's any correlation between the decrease in the domestic assaults that you're seeing because of that.
Sure. Councilmember West, thank you for those comments and that question. I don't, to your latter thought first, we didn't really join with NYFS until later in the year, and these are all of 24 numbers. So I don't know that I could necessarily draw a correlation or more of a causation there. I think that I wish I could tell you what drove those numbers. I don't know. I just don't know. Sometimes you want to think that enforcement has done it, kind of a zero tolerance on especially domestic assaults and kind of sending a message that we're going to arrest you and we're going to bring you to jail. We'd like to think that made a difference. We don't know. Speaking specifically of NYFS, I shared earlier, as you mentioned, that we couldn't be happier with them. They're just a really great partner. We had, as you said, a different service provider for as long as I can remember, and as long as my predecessors can remember. We've used that service provider, and once NYFS started performing those functions with domestic violence and sexual assault, it was a no-brainer for us. They're already a community partner with us. We have an established relationship with them. They're local. It seemed to make sense. I can't say they upped their game because we're their only clients in that area, but what they do for us comparatively is like night and day. And, they keep us updated monthly with their numbers and what, how many referrals they had and what they're doing for each one of those referrals. They've also, kind of, they changed the game a little bit, and they said, we don't only want referrals from your arrests or your domestic assaults. We want referrals whenever you think there might be a domestic assault, in that you might be there for a theft call, or you might be there for some other type of incident. And if the officer just kind of gets a feeling about something that maybe could use some interventions by professionals, we can refer those folks too, and they're under no obligation to seek help, but it's a free service that NYFS provides for those people. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, but when we do that, and if we can make a difference before the domestic assault ever happened, it seems like a no-brainer to do that. So we've just kind of changed the dynamics of responding to and handling domestic assaults and domestic violence. So we're really just, I can't say it enough. I can't be happier with our relationship with NYFS.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions from the council? Chief, thank you again for the report. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, item 5D, Manitow Days presentation and resolution granting support. Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight we have Manitow Days here. Yep, come on, Scott Bonin is going to come up and present about Manitow Days. After his presentation, staff does recommend that you adopt the attached resolution authorizing public resources to support Manitow Days again in 2025. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Bonin, and I live at 2705 Lake Avenue, 55110. As Lindy mentioned, I'm here tonight on behalf of Manitow Days, asking for continued support of public resources. A little background on Manitow Days. We are a volunteer group. We have about 30 volunteers. In fact, Captain Tuma was at one of our meetings as well. But you know, we're a group of volunteers that are planning this event in White Bear Lake. It used to be ran by the Chamber of Commerce, and in mid-2000s, and they decided to hang it up. And that's where a group of individuals stepped in and took over from there and continued it. They've done a great job continuing it. Not only is this our 58th year, but it's also thriving too. So I'm excited and honored to be a part of it. But the event, the Manitow Days is a 3-week event from June 19th to July 4th. There are some other events outside of those dates too. Market Fest is a part of that too, and we're going to have a representative here tonight that's going to talk about Manitow Days as well. But we have a ton of events, but kind of the main ones are, you know, June 19th Market Fest starts. June 20th is the parade and the beach dance. June 21st is there's a vintage boat show, and July 4th is the fireworks. But you know, safety is our #1 priority, and we couldn't do it without the support of you guys. You know, if there's, I am a new chair starting this year, so I'm learning a lot. But if anybody has any questions or concerns, please bring them up to me. Get in touch with me, and I will address them right away. But just wonder if anybody has any questions.
Council, any questions? I don't have any. I just want to say thank you to you and all the other volunteers that make Manitow Days a great festival, a great time in White Bear Lake. Fond memories as a kid growing up, going to Manitow Days, and still participate in it. And I know my story's not unique. There are lots of people that have multi-generational stories of enjoying this tradition. So with that, I would urge the council to pass the resolution which lends and allocates city staff time to support the community events affiliated with Manitow Days.
Move to approve.
And any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is approved. Thank you very much. All right. Item 5E, Market Fest presentation and resolution granting support. Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We have the brand-new Market Fest coordinator, Laura Lewis, here to give a presentation about Market Fest, and then staff does recommend you adopt the attached resolution, which authorizes $7,000 of appropriation for financial support for Market Fest, in addition to kind of all the staff time that goes into it, but we have been giving $7,000 to Market Fest, so I'll turn it over to Market Fest.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Laura Lewis, for those of you who have not met me yet. Oh, sorry. And then do you have the presentation? Oh, do I just have to hit next? Oh, yeah, there we go. Perfect. So yeah, my name is Laura Lewis. I was hired in February. I was born and raised in White Bear Lake, grew up right down the road from here, actually. And I'm so excited to take on Market Fest and hopefully make this a great year. So Thursdays, it begins June 19th and runs through July 31st, 6 to 9 p.m. This is all, you know, it's in its 35th or 36th year, so it's, you know, hopefully pretty well established, but it's a family-oriented festival to bring people to downtown White Bear Lake in order to promote the city's businesses and enhance the sense of community. Really, the goal is to just foster that downtown feel. Who makes it all work? We have a ton of people that help. I really couldn't do it alone. The city, in fact, is a huge proponent of that. I got to meet a bunch of you either a few weeks ago, and we really couldn't do it without everyone's help. In addition to that, Public Works, the police department and fire department and those staff. Triad is a huge volunteer, CERT and other volunteers, as well as Main Street Inc., my Market Fest committee, which I'll get to more on in a minute, myself, and then our event staff. We have day of staff there at the event. So our board, or the Market Fest committee, is Dan Perry, the chair, works for Edward Jones. He's behind me here in the room. Frank Watson is our staff coordinator and local meteorologist. Dale Grambush is a committee member and staff, former farmer's agent. Kristen Cramner, who's also in the room with us today, she's the Main Street president, as well as runs Kellerman Event Center and Four Deuces and a few other things too. Bill Froussard is the White Bear Country Inn manager and Rudy's Explore White Bear. Kurt Hegland is a former Main Street president. John Lupo is the former owner of Grandma's Bakery. Shannon McCarty, who's from Soul Chiropractic. And then Sean Smith, who is in the room with us as well tonight. He's the owner of Eat at Banning and Fifth. So that's my committee, and that's who kind of helps me make this event happen and who I look to for advice on how to run the event. Overview, so we're in our 36th season this year, started in 1989. Main Street Inc. acquired in 1998, partnered with the city of White Bear Lake, and then Manitou Days runs June 19th through July 4th. So Market Fest is, family fun for all ages. We have 2 stages of live music and community performances each week. There's intermission shows on each stage as well, so there's even more to see. We have a kids activity zone and pony rides. We have the classic car show, and around 200 street vendors and downtown businesses participate each week. So the theme weeks this year, Avenue for the Arts, I'm still confirming that one, but the Kitty Parade will be June 19th. White Bear Lake History Night is June 26th. July 3rd, the VFW is going to do something for Independence Day. July 10th, is White Bear Lake School District Night. July 17th is Public Safety Night. July 26th is the AFSFA Science and Agriculture Night. And July 31st is Environmental Resource Expo. Vendors, so again, we have around 200 vendors and local businesses that participate each Thursday. The categories these kind of stay the same year to year, and we kind of try to keep them that way. The categories are food and farmers market, arts and crafts, merchant services and political parties, nonprofits and community organizations, and then downtown White Bear Lake businesses. We do have discounts for certain categories, so City of White Bear Lake taxpayers get a discount. Special Service District get half off. So if you're in that downtown area, and then businesses in the footprint are free. So if you're a business that can just walk out your front door of your business and be in Market Fest, you can use your storefront space for a booth. Here's the map. This is the map for 2023. It doesn't change much year to year. I haven't received yet the current map, so this is the most recent version that I have. But yeah, it doesn't really change all that much year to year. This is our P&L for last year and our budget for 2025. Because it's my first year doing this, my goal is to keep it flat this year and to kind of just keep everything the same as last year, with the exception of maybe one thing, and that's because the person who did this event before me had her own marketing company where she paid for certain services as part of her company, and now that she's not doing it and I am, Market Fest is going to kind of accrue additional cost to kind of manage some softwares and things like that. Other than that, we're going to kind of keep it pretty flat and try to maintain it that way. The balance sheet for last year, it's up here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but so you guys can kind of see it. We kind of notable at the our opening balance was just under 60,000. We our retained earnings were just over 10 or just under 11,000, and then our net income was 28. That number is as of September of last year, and so at that time we still had some outstanding accounts to be paid out. So really, we ended the year in December with less than that, 12 to 14,000 less than that number. Any questions on the budget stuff? Okay. Market Fest request. So this is kind of, year to year that this is kind of the same, I think. What we request from the city of White Bear Lake, funding of that $7,000, use of downtown White Bear Lake streets and sidewalks, Washington Ave banning, 4th, 3rd, and the back parking lot, which is that parking lot kind of behind Good Things. Continued support of Public Works, use of Public Works trucks and trailer for transportation and storage of chairs, barricades, and those things. Market Fest participation, fire trucks, emergency vehicles, paid officers, 2 CERT booths each week, Public Safety Week, July 17th, and then Environmental Expo on 4th Street is July 31. In return, Market Fest will hold Market Fest on 7 consecutive Thursdays, provide quality activities and entertainment in a safe setting, and then promote White Bear Lake as a destination city. That's all I have for you guys this evening. Thank you all for your time and for being here tonight. Is there any questions for me?
I don't have any questions. Like Manitou Days, I'll just say thank you to you and all the volunteers and all the businesses that make Market Fest the great 7-week event that it is. So we look forward to another good one. Unless council has any questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the city's contribution of $7,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution is passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item 6A, the 2024 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program. Ms. Talon, whenever you're ready.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting on the 2024 activities as part of our MS4 General Permit and Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program. So MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. That is a system of streets, curb and gutters, storm sewer and ditches that convey stormwater runoff to the waters of the state, which includes lakes and wetlands. These MS4s are owned by public entities, such as us. And the MS4s in Minnesota must satisfy requirements of the MS4 General Permit, which is a federal permit. And the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is the overriding agency of that permit. Something changed. Is that okay? It sounded different. The purpose of the permit is to reduce the amount of pollutants entering state waters from the stormwater system. So examples of these stormwater pollutants is litter, sediment, phosphorus from fertilizers, leaves, and grass clippings, chloride from winter salt applications, bacteria and other pathogens, and different types of chemicals, such as what could come off of a car. So the purpose is accomplished through the development and implementation of a stormwater pollution prevention program, or SWIP for short. And this SWIP has 6 components called minimum control measures, or MCMs. We really love our acronyms in this field. So there's 6 minimum control measures. I have those listed on the slide, plus MS4s that convey stormwater to an impaired water body have additional requirements. So I'll go through each of these individually. The first minimum control measure is public education and outreach. So we distribute educational materials to inform the public on the impacts of stormwater discharges. So we accomplish this through our city website, our spring and fall newsletter. White Bear Press articles, and our social media platforms. We also partner with water management organizations and others to host water-related events and conduct workshops. So these two photos on the slide are from our Facebook posts. So we post periodically about different events that we have and smart salting tips and other pollutant reduction types of education. We also have the city website, which has information on stormwater-related topics. It's whitebearlake.org. Stormwater management information you can find under the Your Government tab in engineering. There's also a yard and garden section under the services tab and environment. We put numerous articles in our newsletters, our spring and fall newsletter. So in 2024, this is a screenshot of just some examples of the articles that we put in our newsletters. So in the spring, we talk about street sweeping, reporting illicit discharges, dog waste, yard waste. And in the fall, we focus more on responsible salting for the winter time. And we periodically put the medicine drop box information in the newsletter as well. And as Laura mentioned, our Environment Advisory Commission hosts an Environmental Resources Expo the last night of Market Fest. So in 2024, that was July 25th. And one of our Environmental Commission members is here tonight, Bonnie. I think that's it, I think, that I see. So they host this every year. In 2024, there are 15 exhibitors and 5 electric cars. And these are just some photos from the 2024 event. And Vlamo and one other watershed district was represented. The DNR and the Get the Lead Out program was also represented. So we have some water-focused exhibitors at the event. And in 2025, the Environmental Resources Expo will be held on July 31st. MCM2 is public participation and involvement. We must provide at least one opportunity annually for the public to provide input on our SWIP, so that is what this meeting is for. And we also provide other opportunities for public participation and involvement. For example, we market the Adopt a Drain program, where participants can go to adoptadrain.org, look at a map, and adopt a storm drain in their area, and then they sweep leaves, grass clippings, fertilizers, other pollutants off the street, so it keeps it from getting into that storm drain. So we have been a member of this Adopt a Drain program since 2019. The program is run by Metro Watershed Partners, and they provide an annual report each year. So this is a screenshot showing one page of the annual report. And it shows that there are 285 drains adopted as of 2024, with 179 participants so far. We also partner with Rotary Club and Vlamo on restoration projects at Rotary Nature Preserve. And as part of that, we work with the Birch Lake Elementary School to conduct a field days to teach the kids about what we're doing with the restoration projects. And this year, or in 2024, we had a fall event for the 3rd through the 5th graders. So here's some photos of that event. There were 4 activity stations. There were macroinvertebrates, a nature walk, a scavenger hunt, and an edible campfire. And in 2025, there'll be a spring event for the K through 2nd graders, and that'll be held the end of May. We don't have it scheduled quite yet, but that's coming up. And then we'll also do another fall event in 25 for the 3rd through 5th graders. The Environmental Advisory Commission also held a buckthorn removal event on Hanlow's Pond, along the north end of Hanlow's Pond in the buffer area. And they partnered with Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District, and it was a great turnout. There were 20 plus volunteers that included residents, the Watershed District, Citizen Advisory Commission, and staff, and our Park Advisory Commission, to name a few. And they plan on doing another event this fall at the same location because there's a lot of pond to go around yet. They just did the north end. So minimum control measure 3 is illicit discharge detection and elimination. An illicit discharge is any discharge, either accidental or on purpose, into a storm sewer system, river, stream, wetland, or lake that's not composed of only stormwater. So we have developed a program to detect and eliminate these discharges. So we have an ordinance. We train staff annually to identify and report illicit discharges, and we encourage residents to report suspicious activities. We let them know about this program mainly through our newsletter. And we have procedures for locating and eliminating these sources and for responding to spills. So the next couple slides are examples of illicit discharges, and a lot of these photos are from actual reports from the community. So examples include concrete wash water, oil that has gotten into a lake, sediment from construction sites that get into the street, pet waste, fertilizers and pesticides, grass clippings and leaves that are in the street. That's a very common one that we see. So for residents to report an illicit discharge, if it's an emergency situation, dial 911. In non-emergency situation, they can call the engineering department, or they can use our online form on our website, which is, again, whitebearlake.org, the services tab, and then report a problem. In 2024, there were 6 reports of illicit discharge. There were 3 reports of blowing leaves or grass clippings into the street. There's 1 report of dumping soil into Varney Lake, sediment at an outfall, and a report of some rusty 5-gallon drums that were sitting outside in a parking lot. The 4th minimum control measure is construction site runoff control. So we're required to implement and enforce a construction site stormwater runoff control program to reduce pollutants from construction activity specifically. A lot of the main pollutant in construction activity is soil. So we have an erosion and sediment control ordinance. We conduct site plan reviews, so mainly the engineering department does the site plan reviews for erosion and sediment control. And there's site inspections and procedures for reports of non-compliance. So the building department inspects both commercial and residential construction sites for erosion control. And these 2 photos show perimeter erosion control. The one on the left is not working properly, so then when it rains, that soil runs off into the street and then gets into our lakes and wetlands. And on the right is proper sediment control, where it is being held on site and not allowed to go downstream. Minimum control measure 5 is post-construction runoff management. So when there is either a public project, so our street projects are included in this, or private development, if they trigger so much impervious surface, then they need to create a stormwater treatment facility on site to treat their runoff before it discharges off their site. So we have an ordinance and stormwater design standards in place for this, and the engineering department conducts site plan reviews to ensure that the sites are meeting our stormwater standards. And we also require a long-term maintenance agreement so these stormwater facilities are actually maintained properly so they function. And this, I just have to mention, I'm sure you know this one well, the Wildwood Row Homes. This is one of the many that we have reviewed in 2024. And this picture on the left shows the start of construction. So they have the nice perimeter silt fence control up. And so that was taken in January when it first started. MCM 6 is pollution prevention good housekeeping. This is mainly Public Works that implements this program. So at city facilities, there's waste disposal requirements, fleet maintenance, and stockpile requirements to keep pollutants from entering the storm sewer system. There's landscape maintenance to make sure that any fertilizers or leaves, grass clippings are not in the street. Winter street maintenance, which includes salting the streets. And then the stormwater facilities that the city owns to treat stormwater before it discharges, we have to inspect and maintain those as well. So the Public Works Department mainly does that. And then there's employee training for this as well. So street sweeping, the street department sweeps all streets in the spring and fall, and if they have time, they do that a couple times, both seasons. And then they weekly sweep downtown and around the lake. And we have, in the last couple years, partnered with Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District for enhanced sweeping in one of their priority areas on the south end of town. So they hire a private street sweeper to sweep that priority area in addition to what we do. And of course, winter street maintenance, public works staff attends annual smart salt training, and then they ensure that their equipment is not overly salting the roads. It's all about safety, but we try not to oversalt unnecessarily. And the sewer department inspects all of our treatment structures and removes sediment as needed. Some of our structures include swirl separators and sump manholes, and that collects sediment before it discharges into the lakes. There's underground infiltration pipes that are used to infiltrate additional stormwater into the soil. There's pretreatment structures like the one in the photo at Mataska Park. So that's an above-ground structure that collects sediment off the parking lot at Mataska Park, and right before it enters the lake, because the lake is right downstream of that. So they maintain that at least a couple times a year and remove sediment from there. And then there is an iron sand filter at 4th and Otter. So that removes phosphorus from a large drainage area in the city. And there is a company that's hired to maintain that. So they sweep this, or they rake the sediment off the top of this iron sand filter that comes from that watershed. And then the street department comes with their vac truck and then sucks up that sediment and disposes of it properly. And we hire Natural Shore Technologies to maintain our rain gardens. So rain gardens are another treatment facility that we use to capture pollutants. So there's 6 total, and the contractor weeds and mulches and then cleans those inlets and removes sediment. So impaired waters, there's an impaired waters program as part of this MS4 permit, and the purpose of that is to restore lakes that are impaired for specific nutrients and pollutants, I should say. Common pollutants are nutrients, sediment, chloride, and bacteria. And the MPCA did testing on Minnesota lakes and created this list of impaired waters that don't meet a certain standard, and that's called a 303D list. And MS4s that discharge to these impaired waters are assigned pollutant loadings called a waste load allocation, or WLA, another acronym. And an example of an impaired water within the city is East Goose Lake. So you could see on the screen, there's an underwater photo of East Goose Lake, and it has there's so much algae in it from excess nutrients that you can't see through the water column. On the other hand, Birch Lake, which is also in our city, is not impaired for nutrients. So you can see the difference underwater and how much clearer it is. And there's a lot more diversity of aquatic species, and there's aquatic plants as well. And all of that keeps it in that clean state. So we are assigned numerous waste load allocations for water bodies. So there's 7 lakes that were assigned a nutrient waste load allocation. Goose Lake, as I mentioned, is in our community, so west and east. There's Bald Eagle Lake, Coleman Lake, Lake St. Croix, Peltier, Centerville Lake, and Wilkinson Lake, and those are not within our community, but we drain to them ultimately. And good news is Coleman Lake and Bald Eagle Lake were both delisted from the impaired waters list in 2024. So that means they are not impaired for nutrients anymore. So there's over 20 years of work that was done to get these lakes off the impaired waters list. We also have waste load allocations for 2 creeks, Rice and Lambert Creek, for bacteria impairment, and then 2 lakes for chloride impairment. So for example, MS4s that are assigned a waste load allocation for nutrients, which we have to report the nutrient reduction progress in an MS4 annual report to the MPCA. So what that looks like is, for example, this curb cut rain garden in the photo was installed in 2018 as part of a voluntary program through our street reconstruction projects. And that is within the watershed of Bald Eagle Lake. And so our report would say, well, we put this curb cut rain garden in and it takes out 0.4 pounds per year of phosphorus. Sounds different. So that's an example of the projects that we work on, mainly capital improvement projects to reduce phosphorus to the various lakes that are impaired. So for the delisted lakes, we no longer are required to report progress to the MPCA, but we do want to continue to partner with the watershed districts on other projects within those watershed areas so we can maintain that water quality status. So here's a couple examples of some capital projects that were done in 2024. As I mentioned, we have a volunteer rain garden program through our street reconstruction projects. So in 2024, 5 curb cut rain gardens were installed in the Lambert Creek subwatershed area. So Lambert Creek's impaired for bacteria, and their nutrient levels are actually increasing in that stream. So we need to be careful of that as well and try to reduce nutrients to that creek. So with those 5 curb cut rain gardens that were installed as part of our project, there is an estimated 0.67 pounds per year phosphorus reduction, 122 pounds of sediment removal, and 35,871, or over 268,000 gallons of water that's taken out of that system and away from Lambert Creek. And just to mention Lambert Creek, so we are in the Lambert Creek subwatershed. So any rainfall that falls on this property, I mean, there's acres of it, that goes into Lambert Creek, but that ultimately ends up in Lake Vadnais, which is the drinking water supply for over 400,000 people in the St. Paul area. So it's an important watershed to keep clean. Another example is a project at Oak Knoll Pond. I'm sure you're very familiar with this one already. It started in 2023, wrapped it up in 2024, and it's a demonstration project to see if spent lime, which is a byproduct of water softening at our treatment plant, see if spent lime can reduce phosphorus within Oak Knoll Pond. So the theory is it binds to phosphorus within the water column to reduce nutrients, improve the water quality. And ultimately what this does is improving the water from Oak Knoll Pond that goes into Goose Lake, which is the water body that's on the impaired waters list. So VLAMO is doing a lot of monitoring of this, so we should have some results later this year that I will share with you. And lastly, MS4s that are assigned a waste load allocation for both bacteria and chloride impairments, which we are. The new MS4 general permit requirements will require us to have an ordinance for pet owners to properly remove and dispose of pet waste on city property, an ordinance requiring proper salt storage at commercial, institutional, and industrial facilities, and distributing educational materials on pet waste and salt use at least once per year, which is what we do in our newsletter. And I just want to say that partners are key to these projects. The Environment Advisory Commission, the Watershed Districts, Rotary Club. These are 3 members of the Rotary Club that we meet with almost monthly to plan events and restoration projects at Rotary Nature Preserve. So that's on the left, John Channon, middle is Carol Nelson, and on the right is Leo Schultz. And him and I actually were out at Rotary Nature Preserve this morning staking locations for trees for their Arbor Day planting day on Saturday. So there's 15 trees they're planting. And it looks like good weather, so last year it rained on them. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to
Great.
answer them.
Thank you for the detailed report, Ms. Talon. Before we get to questions, this is scheduled for a public hearing, so I will open it up, the public hearing for the 2024 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program. I do not have any signups on my list, but if anyone would like to speak to this, they may do so now. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Thank you again, Ms. Talon. I don't have any comments or questions. Keep up the good work. Sounds like you guys are staying busy. Council, do we have any questions? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Talon, so Goose Lake has been an issue for a long, long time, decades. We clearly are doing things, okay? How much are we moving the needle, and how long could we project that it's going to, is our work being effective so we saw a couple of lakes delisted, that's great.
Yeah.
But some of our most egregious situations, are we making progress, and how do we know? And when might we celebrate another delisting?
That's a very good question. Goose Lake is an interesting one. There's watershed, there's nutrients getting into the lake through the watershed activities. But this one is unique also because it's internal loading, so there's a lot of phosphorus from a long time ago that's now bound to sediment within Goose Lake. And so the main driver of the impairment, what they're saying is that internal phosphorus loading, so that would have to be dealt with a little differently. Right now, we're just looking at ways to do that, and spent lime is one of the options. So alum treatment, so it's aluminum sulfate, that was used in Bald Eagle Lake, for example, along with a lot of watershed-based projects. So in combination, that's what it took. It took many years of those types of projects. So we were looking at Oak Knoll Pond first before we tackled Goose Lake to see how effective spent lime is. So we are still looking into that. So it was just completed last year, so that we need some data on that to see if that would be effective to use within Goose Lake. So timeline-wise, I don't have a great answer for you on that right now. But it's continued partnership with Flamo on that. They've been a great partner, and they're the ones that really have that expertise that can drive these projects forward, along with our partnership as well.
One more question, Mr. Mayor. So, shifting gears slightly, some of the waters that we are talking about here are actually lakes. They are, they've been long-standing bodies of water. We have a whole bunch of other things that we euphemistically call ponds that are really stormwater retention facilities marketed as ponds. So Preby and a bunch of others that mostly created by developers or augmented by developers. Are those subject to MS4 governance and monitoring as well, or do they fall into a different category?
Councilmember Egberg, the public waters that are required by MS4s and that are on impaired waters lists are lakes, public lakes owned by the DNR. The other water bodies that we call ponds here many of them are still public water bodies, but they're wetlands. And so they are not under the same requirements as the MS4 lake water bodies are. But they are considered public water, so Preby Lake, Heiner's Pond, Varney.
What do we know about the impaired nature of those bodies of water? And are we active in treating or trying to improve the water quality of those bodies?
Yeah, Councilmember Edberg, the state is the one who does the testing to put the water bodies on the impaired waters list. So I am not aware of any testing that's been done by the MPCA on these public water wetlands, just because they don't fall under this permit. But whenever there's a street project, we do treatment. So there's requirements just through our standards and the watershed district rules to add treatment. And so wherever we have projects, that's where treatment goes. So there is opportunities, and there has been opportunities to treat stormwater in all of those subwatersheds. And eventually there will be other opportunities too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Council, any other questions or comments? Councilmember West.
Yeah, just really quick. I appreciate everything that you do. Being the representative on Velamo, I'm kind of keeping track of what we're doing, and there's just so much work that's done. I continue to be really impressed with that. And also just wanted to mention, because I'm not sure where else to mention it, the newsletter, both your part and all of the other parts, is just really chock full of really good information. I always find it so, and just wanted to make mention of that for you and everybody else who's working on the newsletter. Callie, I see you.
Oh, Councilmember West, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we really definitely appreciate our partnership with Velamo. We work with them so very closely on everything. And so, yeah, we really value that partnership. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, item 7A, unfinished business. We have a second reading of an ordinance amending the municipal code regarding dogs. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we're here for a second reading of the dog ordinance that we talked about at the last meeting. We covered it in quite a bit of detail at that meeting. The ordinance, just as a reminder, is intended really for two primary reasons. One, to require that dogs be restrained on a leash at all times when not located on either private property with the property owner's consent or in a private motor vehicle. And then two, to formally codify the longstanding rule in the Dog Beach area at Matoska Park that dogs be restrained on a leash no longer than 30 feet in length when they're in that area. You'll recall the council had a public hearing that evening at the last meeting. There were no public comments made. The council was generally receptive and supportive of the ordinance as drafted. And so in addition to the ordinance itself, there's also an accompanying summary resolution that if the ordinance is adopted, I would recommend approval of so that staff can publish just a short summary rather than the entire ordinance in the newspaper. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Council, what would we like to do? Would anyone like to move approval of the ordinance?
I will move approval.
Very good. Do I have a second? A motion, a second. Any further discussion on this? Councilmember Edberg.
So we had one question raised at our first discussion about the safety of a 30-foot leash in the water. Was there any ability to gather any information on that, or what current recommended practice is around leashing dogs when they are swimming or in water?
Mayor, Councilmember Edberg, I'll take that, and Mr. Coffey, I don't know if you have anything to add. I believe that how I interpreted that question was police data from White Bear Lake, and we don't have that data. I did not do further research regarding leashing, a 30-foot leash in a beach. unofficially, I would say it's a little unique to have a beach area like this and to have dogs on leashes in that beach area, but I don't have data to support that information.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I think it's a valid concern. I would just note that regardless of what we do with this ordinance, that's been what the, we'll call it a rule, has been to have a 30-foot leash since 2017. I don't think we've seen any issues. I would suspect a lot of the reason we haven't seen any issues was because there was widespread violation of the leash law. So I think that remains to be seen, but I think your point is well taken. That's something we should monitor, assuming people comply, and see where it goes.
And just to add to Mayor and Council to that question, I did just confirm that most of those retractable leashes, the longer version of them is 30 feet in length. So I assume that's where that number came from. I don't think it was pulled out of thin air. But I just assume that a lot of people have those types of leashes. And so that's why that number is there. And to the mayor's point, that has been the rule for going on 8 years now. So just some sidebar to that discussion.
No,
Thank you.
That's helpful. All right, any further discussion? All right, I have a motion and a second on the moving approval of the ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The ordinance is passed. We have an accompanying resolution authorizing summary publication of the ordinance. I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution. A motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution is approved. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Item 8, new business, nothing scheduled. Item 9, discussion. 9A, Fifth Street and Banning Park Avenue parking lot reconstruction concept layout options. Mr. Coppy.
Mayor, members of the council, so following a motion at the March 25th meeting to hold a public hearing regarding trees in the Fifth and Banning parking lot portion of the downtown parking lot reconstruction project. Council held that public hearing on April 8th. Heard overwhelmingly from residents, both at the hearing as well as through email and phone calls, that they really wanted to see the 4 bur oaks that are located in that parking lot to be saved as part of the reconstruction project. So following that, Council had given staff general direction following the hearing in their discussion to look at options to parking lot layouts that would save the 4 trees, as well as look at the 3 trees closest to Banning Avenue in the large grass area at the bottom of the screen, or the picture on the screen. The 4th tree is closest to the hardware store, is alone and was generally evaluated that its condition was declining due to the area that it's in and just the condition of the overall tree. And that was done by Rainbow Tree Care. So they evaluated all the trees. The 3 in the larger grass area were in generally good condition. So the picture on the screen depicts how the parking lot exists today and has existed for some time. Staff went back following the April 8th public hearing and based on council direction, looked at several options that were included in your packet. Those 2 rows to the top, before I flip to the layouts that we looked at, we sat down, staff as well as SCH, the consultant that we're using to look at some of these, looked at many different layouts, trying to pick our brains as far as what's going to be the best for that lot, from a parking stall count, protection of the trees, flow, and accessibility to the parking lot. We looked at different one-way options. We looked at diagonal parking. We looked at closure and relocation of entrances, which, looking at, can we close an entrance to increase those parking lot counts or better flow in the parking lot? Really didn't help based on the just the overall available, saving the trees, the available area that was left to actually allow for parking and drive aisle. So What we came up with and was included in your packet isn't a whole lot different from what is out there today, but generally, I'm going to flip back and forth a little bit between this existing air photo and the concepts. So concept one is, again, generally follows the layout that is there. What I'm going to note is, as we looked at these concepts, we really tried to follow current standards from a parking stall dimensions. A lot of what we have around town can be undersized at times. So these are 9 by 18. That's generally a standard parking stall dimension. And then we also looked at ADA accessible stall requirements. So that changed things slightly as far as the width of those, the width of the access aisles for those, the numbers that are required based on the total number of stalls for the parking lot. So concept one gave us or allowed us to remain at 67 stalls. That is exactly what is there today, but meet current standards. One thing I will note, and I'll point it out, if you look closest towards Banning Avenue, you can kind of see the old curb line. We slightly carve into there's a small green space area by about 20 feet to allow for circulation in that revised parking lot layout. It is well outside of the drip line, and I'm going to flip back to the air photo. You can see at the bottom of the screen the kind of the square green area. You can see that it falls quite outside of the drip line where we would be affecting it, but yet allow for that revised layout to meet current standards. So that again is one option. Concept two again is a slight modification of it. We do get one less stall, and we do chew into that green area a little bit more, getting still outside of the tree's drip line, but much closer to it. So after staff's review, we really looked back and said concept one seems to meet the goals that council laid out for us. Before I end with the concepts, if you look at the top of the screen, closest to Fratellone Hardware, that is the fourth bur oak tree. It's got the red circle around it. In all the layouts that we looked at, both the concepts that were included in your packet as well as others, that line of parking really lays out well. If that tree were to be removed, you increase the stall count by 2. So really, we could have done another layout for you, but it's really the same, but that tree removed with that island removed. So that's really how that question lays out as far as whether that significantly changes the layout of the parking lot, which it doesn't. So those are the two concepts that really rose to the top based on the conditions in the field. So really we would welcome any discussion that council has and questions regarding the layouts so that staff can move forward with a final plan that would be anticipated. I put the schedule back in the packet memo. The next step in the process that we would ask for council to look at approving plans at the May 27th meeting. We'd happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Copy. I want to drill down on the health of the fourth tree. That's been the subject of discussion. My understanding is Rainbow Tree Care has deemed it as in declining health. I think the staff report characterizes it as in poor health, as opposed to the other three, which seem to be in good health. What do we really know about it? And if we need more information and need to drill down further in another meeting, that's fine with me, but it seems like we have pretty good information. And what I'm understanding is that the result of it being in declining health is that it potentially creates a safety hazard with branches falling on cars, people, what have you, and safety considerations aside, if it does eventually die, then if we were to remove it, that's harder to do once we already have the lot paved to then go in and take that out. So I said a lot there. Status of the health of the fourth tree, as you know it, as reported to you by Rainbow Tree Care, the experts on this.
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. So we rely on, or our staff uses Rainbow Tree Care as another memo in your packet in the consent agenda, that they do our emerald ash borer treatments. They do a lot of inspections for us around town. So we do rely on them as an expert. They do tree removals, but they do a lot of treatments, treatment plans for communities and private homeowners. So we do rely on their expertise. We don't have a certified arborist on staff per se. We do have tree inspectors, but we do rely on their expertise as an arborist. So they did come and look at it in the past. They also re-looked at it upon a request from the Environmental Advisory Commission to take a look at it again. Obviously, as we come into spring, there's another opportunity to see what branches are budding or not budding again. We know that there are some dead branches, particularly on the north side of the tree. So those, at minimum, if the tree were to stay, that we would need to do some tree trimming and monitor any further dieback. I know there were some comments during the public hearing as far as nobody can really predict, a tree in decline. It could last 1 year, it could last 10 years, it could last 50 years. We don't know that. We can't predict that. So even in talking with the folks from Rainbow Tree Care to confirm that, they know it's in declining health due to the condition of the branches, how much they bud, but they can't predict how long that will last.
Okay, and on at least the location of the fourth tree, the necessary green space, we'll call it, and it's pretty small, based on the proximity of the tree to kind of where the parking lot line is, that's effectively going to be a bump out, kind of how it is today, correct?
Correct.
From the sort of the driveway. From a traffic flow standpoint, parking lot flow standpoint, I'm sure we can manage through it, but that seems to me that that's less than ideal. We're kind of dealing with it, and it creates a little bit of an awkward bump out. Is that a fair characterization?
Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to scoot back to the layouts again. It's generally so the two concepts have the same island with the tree in it, closest to Fred Alon's Hardware there. I'm going to go back one, if I hit the right button, go back to the same thing. It really doesn't impede the overall circulation through the parking lot. Really, like I mentioned in my presentation, if it were to be removed, it merely adds 2 parking stalls to the total count of the lot.
Okay, I appreciate your engineering perspective on that. I'll opine, kind of the layperson looking at an aerial map, and that you think of 2-lane traffic going through there, it is a bump out. So I'm not saying it's going to be a bottleneck, but a car does have to jet out, particularly if there's a car coming in the opposite direction. It's less than ideal. Okay. And we're not making any decisions tonight, correct? But you're looking for some feedback on what the ultimate proposal will be for approval.
That's
the
correct.
Next council meeting, or in a month or so. Okay. Council, any questions for Mr. Copy or comments on this? Councilmember Walsh.
Just a comment, I would prefer the concept one as laid out, gets us a little more parking, and I'm comfortable doing it today, get rid of the fourth tree. I don't like the idea of waiting for it to fall and then going back. You say, oh, it'll be easy, but it won't be easy. We have no idea what the budget's going to be, what the situation's going to be in 4 years, 5 years, whenever that tree falls. And to have to, cut that out and repave that area doesn't seem smart, doesn't seem practical. So I would say concept one without that fourth tree to get those 2 extra spots. And then a lot of photos, a lot of comments about ACE, and loading up pallets of stuff there. I mean, I think when everything's done, I think that's going to be a theme. When the parking lots are done, when the streets are done, enforcement will go up a little bit. I think we've been talking about that privately, maybe not publicly, but I think that's the plan, that enforcement of everything, 2-hour limits on parking, all that kind of stuff is going to go up once we're all done. So that would be my suggestion.
Any other feedback from the council? Councilmember West.
Yeah, I've been hearing kind of about the fourth tree as well. I guess I also like concept one and would like to hear a little bit more about this spring, kind of what the fourth tree looks like, Mr. Coffey. I don't know. Generally, I would like to keep the tree if we could, and also I'm concerned about safety. So I have a mixed mind on this one.
Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cowpy, I'm to favor number one, but I'm looking at, and I've been out walking on that area 2 or 3 times now in the last month, looking at the, where we have the current curbing on the east side, on the Banning side, looking at creating another couple of parking stalls there by breaching the current curbing, getting us closer to, I agree that it's not in the drip line. I'm not sure that Oaks necessarily confine themselves to drip lines. I'm not sure that that's the case. So I'm quizzical, not concerned necessarily, but quizzical about what are we potentially endangering by getting closer to those trees and adding two more spots. And I don't know when we redo a parking lot how deep we dig. Clearly, the trees right now are benefiting from having more space for roots. That's usually a good thing. Part of me, I too am conflicted on the fourth tree. I kind of lean toward leaving it, but another possibility might be we pick up those 2 spots and not maximize the spots close to Banning. Might be another consideration. We end up with the same number of spots total either way that way, but those are my reflections.
Any other thoughts from the council? Councilmember Hughes.
I think 1 is fine. I guess I would agree with Councilmember Edberg if we're going to. No. If we're going to keep the trees, let's not ruin them while we keep them. And I would just keep the one next to the building and let it fall. My next door neighbor's tree falls all the time, but it only falls in high wind storms, and generally I'm not standing out there, so I haven't been hit by it yet. Not that I'm advocating for safety problems, but I just don't know that it's going to be on a Tuesday afternoon while somebody's having lunch.
Any other thoughts on this?
I'm up for concept 1 also. Taking down the tree taking down 4. No, take down 4. Safety reasons.
Okay. We've heard from everybody. I only asked a couple questions. I usually speak first. I decided to speak last on this one. At the public hearing, we'll go back. I was supportive of taking all the trees down, not because I hate trees, but because we've got a parking issue and I wanted to work through that. I was convinced otherwise that these trees are worth saving, at least some of them, and I think the 3 still are. I still support that. I don't really know why we're actually spending this much time on the 4th tree when experts have told us it's in declining health, that the experts can't predict. And maybe it is 50 years, but maybe it's like in August and a big branch falls on some kid biking by or someone patronizing Ace or a car or any of the number of things that happen in a high traffic area. It is there because years ago it was decided to be kept, and that's why it's awkwardly bumped out. And we've given it the old college try, and it sounds like it's been in decline for many years and isn't the most sightly of the trees, and probably isn't going to get healthy and better. That's probably true when we do construction, and it continues to have a small area to receive the water that it needs. So to me, if we have a declining tree and we're redoing the parking lot, let's get rid of it now. Let's add 2 more spots. Let's put our best foot forward with concept 1 and create as big a green space as we can. and to try and preserve those other 3 trees. That is a really good compromise to me, both from commerce and parking and ecology and preserving trees and having a nice parking lot that we can all be proud of. So I would like to see the decision made tonight that we just move forward with the concept 1 and remove the 4th tree and gain a couple of lots. Whether we need a formal action on that or not, or we take it up at the next meeting when we have proposals, I don't know if it necessarily matters because we can kind of make that change on the fly. But that's ultimately where I would like to see this go. And I want to underscore again, everyone has the same crystal ball, which is to say, who knows what the future is going to hold. But when we have very serious safety concerns, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, let's see what happens when someone could be under that tree when something bad happens. So I don't want to see that happen. So let's move on and cut down the tree and preserve the other 3. That's where I stand. Any other thoughts? Okay. Do you have?
I don't recall anybody ever being hit by a tree that the city owns in anywhere in downtown, ever, in 125 years. So I get conflicted about, and you're not being unreasonable, Mayor. I'm not picking a bone on that. This idea of how much safety do we have to have in order to be safe, and how much risk do we take risk to 0, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm not seeing that as a major risk. Is it a possibility? Yes. Is it, but have we had any lived experience with it? Not so much. So I don't know. That would be another way of thinking about, is it pragmatic? Is it risk? Is it safety? We gen up all kinds of things in the name of safety, but we don't ask the question, how much of a safety issue do we have, and how much data or demonstrated experience do we have? And that's where I go. I throw up my hands.
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument to question it. Everything, all of life comes down to a cost-benefit analysis. It's a risk assessment. I'm not an expert. I hear declining tree, a tree in declining health. That's different. I don't think I would have much of a different opinion if there were any other public tree in a public park in a high traffic area. Let me back up. If it were in a high traffic area, I think that's the difference maker to me. There are thousands and thousands of trees. Okay, if you want to look at data, I don't need a statistical analysis to say more people frequent in and around that tree in that particular area than pick a tree in any public park, because it's in a very high traffic parking lot and a very, very popular hardware store. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I don't know. I mean, but I don't want to find out. So, to me, call it a tie. I'm not saying it's cut and dry, but it's enough of a risk to me on the safety front alone. I probably could be convinced if you told me 100% for certain that it wasn't a safety risk. I probably would still come down on let's move the tree, because it is in declining health, and there are some very pragmatic costs associated with 2 years from now, 5 years from now. We say, well, you can just cut down the tree then. No, we're allocating a project cost to do this now. We can do it now. To go back and do it all over again after the parking lot is built is more wear and tear on the parking lot. It is further disruption. It is cost at that time, and it is a patch in the parking lot, so it's not going to be the consistent, cohesive look. So I'll say it again, because apparently I'm getting emails to the contrary, or phone calls, or people talking. I don't hate trees. I don't want the darn tree to go for the sake of cutting down a tree. It's in decline. We can gain 2 spots. It is a safety risk. The totality of the circumstances is let's cut it down and move on. There's 3 really nice mature trees still left. It's going to look great. But hey, I'm just one opinion. So, Mr. Copy, do you have what you need for the next meeting? Very good. Okay.
Great.
Item 10, communication from the city manager.
Love following that. The latest issue of the newsletter is out. we kind of started the conversation of giving kudos. I want to just publicly give kudos again to all of our staff. Probably 10 staff, I think, contribute to this, managed by City Clerk Long and Dyke, and it's always so impressive and very well done. So please read it. There's so much information in here that is very useful and relevant to everybody in the community, as well as upcoming events, an introduction to our new assistant fire chief, really good stuff on all of our MS4 permit and recycling and upcoming events. I've already said that like 3 times, but so many upcoming events. A couple of upcoming events that are right around the corner. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have our 32nd annual skate show at the Sports Center. You do have to buy tickets prior to that. I'll be at the Sunday show. It's always a really good time to see all of our talent that come through our skate school, and I really look forward to that. So that's this Friday through Sunday. Touch a Truck is coming up on May 8th in Podvin Park from 5 to 7 p.m. Another really good event with many local and regional partners that attend that. It's always well attended by the public as well. Put a plug here for our 2nd annual Public Works Open House, which is May 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. I'm literally reading the newsletter right now. That's another really impressive event. Please come check out what all that Public Works does to help you move through and to our community. And then lastly, just for our city council, I will be at our Assistant City Manager Juba and I will be at the City Managers Association Conference next Wednesday through Friday. That's what I have, Mayor.
Very good. Questions, Councilmembers? Questions for Ms. Crawford? All right. Well, high school students, welcome. The council meeting's not over for us, but it's about to be over for you because we're going to do something that's pretty unique, which is to go into closed session. It happens a couple times a year. It's one of the rare opportunities, I shouldn't say opportunities, that sounds bad. It's one of the rare circumstances under which the council can meet in complete secrecy from the public, and it's usually pursuant to litigation that's ongoing where we need to make strategic decisions or some kind of a personnel evaluation, typically of key staff. So with that, you can come up in a minute and we'll sign your sheets, and then I have to read some stuff that you guys don't need to listen to bring us into closed session. But I do want to thank all of you for being here. You get my quick spiel. 23 years ago when I was in Cameron Malum's American Government class, 04 grad of White Bear Lake High School, I sat where you are for the same assignment, listened to the city council, worked through various city business. If I'm honest, at the time, I thought that's kind of boring, but I did the assignment. Now I know how interesting it is. So I hopefully you got a little bit out of this and you realize how important local government is. Local government is the thing that touches your everyday lives, I think, more than any other form of government. The clean water that comes out of your faucet, what happens when you call 911, hopefully what happens when you flush the toilet and go somewhere through the sewer system, our parks, our roads, all that good stuff. So I encourage you now or in the future to participate in local government through a volunteer committee, maybe a run for office someday. I obviously am biased, but I think it's a great form of government. So again, I encourage you to participate, and I thank you for being here. Anyone on this dais here can come up and sign those pieces of paper before you get out of here. Thank you.
Good job. That's
That's
you want huge hair.
Yeah, because it doesn't block as much moving, and it goes, then get over yourself with the height. It's like, who cares? And those things would go, he thinks they go for $1 million to $1 million. I like your thinking. Think of the view. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Why put it in the middle of that thing? Why not put it where it is, where the guys?
So camera's on until you read through that, then he'll cut it.
That's where you put it in.
Come on up.
The views are awesome, both ways. And you go,
Word Councilmember West. You know what, this is pro forma, so I'm just gonna plug along. All right, I've got a spiel to read, so you guys can tune out for about 45 seconds, maybe a minute. We now need to go into a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 Subdivision 3B, which authorizes the city to hold an attorney-client privilege closed session under certain circumstances. Our attorneys from Kennedy and Graven are present to discuss recent developments in the city of White Bear Lake versus the estate of Thomas C. Schuneman and J-Con LLC, Ramsey County District Court File Number 62-CV-23-5526, which is active litigation. The need for confidentiality in discussing this matter with our attorneys outweighs the purposes of the open meeting law because legal counsel intends to candidly discuss recent developments, including a proposed settlement agreement, and provide legal advice for how to proceed. Allowing these discussions to happen in an open session would jeopardize the city's legal position. Therefore, I make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3B to discuss the above described matters. Well, someone want to make a motion?
I'll move.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're in closed session. Thank you.